And action. Awesome. Cool. Well, howdy. My name is David, and I am with Group 13, and I'll be your guide as we explore the method we have devised in order to effectively combat Phagococcus senioritis. I want to begin first with the source of our problem. Microscope, which is, oh man, that guy's ugly. Cmx lectularis, essentially, basically the bed bug. And he is part of the Hemiptera order and falls in the Semicidae family. And some characteristics of the Hemiptera, basically they are terrestrial and they have mouth sucking, elongated sucking mouth parts. They're usually flattened, oval, elongate, and so in the Semicidae, they have a labium that's segmented 3 times, 3 tarsomeres, wingless ectoparasites of birds and mammals, and length of around 3 to 6 millimeters. But yeah, so life cycle, feeding habits, preferred host. So as you can see, for the bed bug, their preferred host is humans. And their life cycle, what it looks like is actually, initially, a female will lay approximately around 200 to 250 eggs throughout its life. And they measure each egg 1/16 of an inch. They're super small, and they're found in tight places. The eggs don't stay eggs for long. They hatch about 10 days, and after they hatch, they're looking for blood. And the more they eat, the more they grow. These nymphs typically grow through 5 molting stages, as you can see right here. And the way that essentially breaks down is, initial cycle, the egg, like I said, will measure around 1 millimeter, and it will hatch after 10 days. Then it'll go into the first stage after eating, and it'll grow to 1.5 millimeters, and then it'll go to 2.5 millimeters, 3 millimeters, and it's grown and grown. And in the final stage of the cycle, the average bed bug will be around between 5 to 7 millimeters, and they can live up to 11 months with proper meals, which is pretty scary. So here's a breakdown of the physical attributes of a bed bug. They're broadly flattened with greatly reduced wings. Leathery reduced forewings are broader than they are long, with a somewhat rectangular look. The sides are covered with short, stiff hairs, and before they feed on blood, they're usually brown in color and are within 6 to 9 millimeters in length. But after they take in blood, their body swells up and it's red in color, which is pretty cool. And just because you don't sleep in a rundown Motel 6 every night does not mean you are safe. As we've said previously, bed bugs need tasty warm meals during each stage of life, and many of its hosts are people like you and me. Humans are hosts for the bed bugs, and this relationship is anything but beneficial. And kind of, as you can see, on the right corner, you got your clusters of bites, and some major symptoms that you can get from these crazy little critters is hemorrhaging, wounds along body parts, flu-like symptoms like fever, chills, headache, body aches, hypotension, acidosis, tachycardia, and multi-organ failure. So that's actually pretty crazy. My recommendation is if you wake up with bites all over you, go to the doctor, and you probably should just clean your area. I mean, you're probably just living in filth, honestly. So right here we have a breakdown of how our disease actually spread. And our disease name was, like I said, that Phagococcus senioritis. And our patient 0 was all the way from the United Kingdom, Her name was Juliana Gordon, and she traveled to Washington, D.C., stayed in a hotel there. And what she brought with her was not only a few little critters, bed bugs, but also a very, very lethal disease. And the bed bugs, stayed in the hotel and infected a few other guests. And the guests brought, the disease back to their hometown as well. And of the 10 patients that were infected, 9 passed away. RIP. This is just a breakdown of kind of like how it spread throughout the area. So now we're going into the reservoir. So our reservoir we identified as the brown rat, which is also called Rattus norvicus. And the reason why the brown rat is such an effective host is because it actually lives in close proximity with humans. They live in a variety of habitats, like you got your garbage dumps, sewers, open fields, woodlands areas, basements, and pretty much anywhere where there'd be food and shelter, and anywhere where there's humans, these guys, the brown rat, are likely to follow. And the main way that they actually transfer a lot of the disease is through fecal, through poop. And so let's go to the next slide. Yeah, here we go. Traveled. Oh, cool. Something that's interesting is the bed bugs. So for some reason, Juliana Gordon, I don't know why, traveled with a teddy bear and blanket. And what most likely happened is that the teddy bear and blanket had a few critters on it, and that's how they came along. And so right here we got the disease breakdown. So as you can see right here, you got the genome size was too large to be a virus, therefore it was a bacteria. It was gram positive, as you can see, the gram stain. It was non-spore forming for the Schaefer and Fulton test. And so as you would have seen green here. And therefore the family was actually identified as Lactobacillus. And then here, cocci were seen in pairs for the shape test right here. And then we're jumping down to the catalase. As you can see, no catalase was formed. Catalase actually mediates the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide into oxygen and water. And basically to find out if a particular bacterial isolate is able to produce catalase enzyme, small inoculum of bacterial isolate is mixed into hydrogen peroxide and observed for the rapid elaboration of oxygen bubbles. Basically, if there's bubbles, it was tested positive. So it was tested negative. So we found out our genre to be Enterococcaceae. That's how we say it in California. It doesn't ferment lactose with production of acid, according to the carbohydrate test. You would have seen a yellow color, and it did not develop with lactose. Therefore, our bacterium cannot ferment the carbohydrates in lactose. So our species, Phagococcus, was now identified. And then it actually started growth at 37 degrees Celsius and not 40. So, and that was important, so you can identify ideal growth temperature. And then it does not reduce sulfur-containing compounds in the H2S. You would have seen black here. So in the end, we found it out to be Phagococcus unknown species, and we renamed it to be Phagococcus senioritis. So the next stage, we're going into, we talked a little bit about, multiple organ failure, flu-like symptoms. 9 out of the 10 patients that got the disease actually passed away. Okay, cool. So now we're going to jump into the control plan. Awesome. So, in the disease cycle, the link between the reservoir and the pathogen is created when the reservoir is exposed to the infected vector. In the case, the bedbugs, the investigators plan on breaking this link by removing brown rats from the infected environment. So it eliminates the chance of contact with the pathogen via direct contact with infected bugs. So the effective removal of brown rat consists of 3 steps. And so, let's go here. First is block off any possible rodent entry. The second was trap and exterminate rodents. And the third was clean up any possible food source for rodents. So when it came to blocking off rodent entry, some specifics that were explained were, basically filling in holes, setting traps in piping, floors, air vents, sealed with chalk, wood, clay, or grout, depending on applicability. Also, put traps in highly frequently trafficked areas by rodents to ensure proper extermination. And the last step was to eliminate food sources for the rats. And so the goal here was to break the link between the pathogen to the reservoir by preventing the reservoir coming into contact with previously infected bedbugs. However, in order to continue to break the disease cycle, the reservoir needs to be prevented from coming into contact with uninfected bedbugs. In order to do this, the links associated with the vector need to be broken. Reservoir to vector, and then vector to host. This will be done by successfully removing lost my place. Bed bugs from the residents. And this can be done successfully through 2 ways. To remove bed bugs from places of residence, which is through chemical and non-chemical. These 2 forms work best when used together due to the nature and the prolificacy of bed bugs. So the controlled design for this disease will implement both. Chemical treatment is much simpler than non-chemical and primarily consists of fumigation of places of residence in order to kill bed bugs swiftly and effectively. The strategy should be implemented in all places of residence in order to cut down on the number of bed bugs quickly. The non-chemical strategies consist of first treating all soft fabric-based items in around the homes like sheets, clothing, luggage with excessive heat. If done correctly, it will kill all bed bugs. And if these steps are implemented, the links between the reservoir to the vector and vector to host should be broken because the vector will have been successfully removed from the environment to both the vectors. Another thing that can be implemented, I forgot to mention that humans are only good hosts for diseases if they're susceptible to the disease in question. The proposed method for decreasing susceptibility of humans as host to Vagcoccus senioritis is through the implementation of a bacteria-specific vaccine. Vaccines have been proven to be effective at successfully abating Vagcoccus in the past, and it is for that reason that this method should be implemented to address the Vagcoccus senioritis pathogen. The vaccine should be distributed to all non-infected individuals who live in the location most likely to come in contact. But with that being said, there's a few methods I like to talk about to, basically control future outbreaks. It's basically get educated, understand, what's going on around you, and keep clean, essentially. And then besides that, if vaccines are implemented in your city, highly recommend getting educated, learning about it, asking doctors good questions, and being conscious of how you can stay away from this disease because it was so lethal. But overall, this pretty much sums up our project. I want to really thank everyone who put work together to get this done. Annika Fuller, Grace Gonzalez, Pearl Barwa, and Tiffany Vargas. You guys are beasts.